Hello Booktube. Today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Cities tag, Austin, Texas edition. The Booktube Cities tag was created originally by Jim of Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. He did the London tag and the Paris tag. And he has recently opened up the Booktube Cities tag to other bookkeepers to create our own original tags centered on cities, both real and fictional. And today I'm going to be doing the Austin, Texas edition of the Booktube Cities tag. Let's get going. Prompt number 1. Austin is the live music capital of the world. Who are your favorite musicians and singers? Name as many or as few as you would like. I'm going to go with 8. 4 bands and 4 solo acts. So the 4 bands are Susie and the Banshees. They are a British punk band who I have adored for 20 years. They are amazing. Savage Garden, they are an Australian band who, despite only having 2 albums to their name, every song on both albums are absolutely amazing. I love every one of them. Just fantastic. Number 3 is Phenomena. They are an independent band from Portland, Oregon, who I've been into for years now, especially their song Evil Bee. I loved it when I first heard it, and I've quickly come to love a lot of the rest of their oeuvre, especially their CD or their album Friend or Foe. And the 4th of the 4 bands, BTS. They are the Korean boy band who have taken the world by storm the last 5 or 6 years, and their work is just amazing. So for the soloists, the 4 are Tori Amos. She's amazing, and I've adored her work for decades now. Rufus Wainwright. He's Canadian, I think Canadian-American singer-songwriter whose work is amazing, particularly his album Poses. I really love that album. Owen Pallett, who is definitely a Canadian singer-songwriter and musician whose works are varied, eclectic, and his work as Final Fantasy is simply divine. And for number 4, Enya. She is an Irish singer, composer, musician whose works are ethereal and beautiful, and I've adored her work for decades as well. So those are my 8. I had a real struggle with picking these 4 because my tastes in music are wide, varied, eclectic, and diverse. I mean, I have 500, no, I think I have probably close to 800 songs on my playlist, which is probably why it so repeats. Anyway, prompt number 2. Keep Austin weird. Name a book that makes its setting weird. For this prompt, I'm going to go with a regular book that on these tags, and that is Radiance by Catherine M. Valenti. Radiance is a space opera set in an incredibly alternate, an incredibly weird version of our solar system. It's a solar system in which every planet, every moon is habitable. And the solar system is much smaller. The planets are much closer. So even using 19th and early 20th century technology, one can reach the moon and the inner solar system, and in fact even all the way up to Pluto, because by the 30s and 40s. The solar system is pretty fully inhabited by humans, and the novel is about the lunar film industry and a father, a famous film director, trying to cope with the disappearance of his daughter in the only way he knows how, which is by making some incredibly weird attempts at making some incredibly weird films about it. So, prompt number 3. Book People is an Austin institution. Book People is an independent bookseller who's been in Austin for decades. I think not quite 50 years, but I think it's in the 40s. And it was a place I loved when I lived in Austin. I would go maybe every few weeks and just enjoy the day there. What is your favorite independent bookseller? For me, it's obviously Book People, particularly to go and shop in. I love it. I also really enjoy Powell's. They're a massive independent bookseller in Portland, Oregon, that I went to in 2006 when I was in Portland for a conference, and that place just blew me away too. So Book People and Powell's are my 2 favorite independent booksellers, and I have, since the pandemic, really begun to shop with both rather frequently. Prompt number 4. Name a book set in or about Austin, Texas. So for this prompt, I'm going to go with a book that I don't necessarily like. If you do have a favorite book about or set in Austin, Texas, please let me know. Please. Unfortunately, I'm not as up on my Texas literature as I would like to be. But the book I'm going to go with is Alamo House by Sarah Byrd. It's a comedic novel from the early mid-'80s about a graduate student who is dissatisfied with her boyfriend, so she moves into a off-campus student housing for female graduate students who at some point enter into a rather silly comedic war with a neighboring frat house who are probably pigs, and that quite slovenly, and they're probably comedically misogynistic, although I've bailed, the 2 times I've tried Alamo House, I've bailed within the first chapter or 2. So what exactly happens after that, I don't know, but yeah, that's the only novel I know that's set in Austin. Although purely set in Austin. I know there's the first arc of the New 52 run of Nightwing by Kyle Higgins. I think issue is set in Austin. This is when Nightwing runs Haley Circus, so he's basically traveling with Haley Circus and doing some superheroing when he gets the time, which I actually think is a really good idea for a superhero, particularly a wandering one. And I think there's a part about midway through a James Bond novel, The Facts of Death by Raymond Benson? Yeah. That's set in Austin. And there might be one by John Gardner that I don't know because I'm not as up on the Gardner Bonds. Although I'm really... me and the Bond pastiche novels are spotty. I've read the last few from John Gardner, and I read some of the earlier ones by Raymond Benson. But anyway, this is about Austin, Texas, not about James Bond. So let's get going. Let's move on. Prompt number 5. Austin FC is the new team in town. Do you like football, soccer, If so, name your favorite team. So, I do rather like soccer. Although I haven't seen a game in probably about 10 years, since I think maybe the World Cup in South Africa, or I might have seen a few, like a game or two of MLS, Major League Soccer, since then. But my sports viewing is rather stodgy, particularly now that there's one TV in the house and my mom controls what's watched on that TV. So me watching any sports other than American football is not likely. Plus, there is Booktube, and I can pretty much fill my entire day watching Booktube if I'm not reading or working. But I do have a favorite soccer team, and that is the Portland Timber. They're the MLS team out of Portland, although I would love to see Austin FC game. So it might be, so that's something I definitely want to work on. Prompt number 6. Austin is increasingly a popular filming location. Name a film or television series set in Austin. So for this prompt, I'm going to cheat a little, I think, and go with Austin Now. It was a current affairs and cultural program produced by KLRU, the Austin PBS affiliate, who I loved it. I think I was there from the beginning, and it was an amazing program. It had a number of amazing interviews with like Diane Richards, Julie Speed, who was an artist, and other local Austinites. And like while I lived in Austin, I adored that program. I think it's been about 10 years or so since they ended it, which is a shame, because it was a great program. Prompt number 7. Austin is the capital of Texas. Have you been to your home state's province, prefecture, whatever you call that, sort of the constituent parts of your country, capital or legislative building? If so, share the story. So I've been to the state capital of Texas 3 times. The first time was when I was a sophomore in high school, and it was as a tourist. So to sort of set the story, inter-school competition, at least a public level, I'm not entirely sure about private school, but at least at the public level, inter-school competition is governed by an organization called UIL. So they govern the districting, how the schools are sort of organized, and the various sports and stuff. So the sporting side of UIL is termed by the sports, but there's an academic side which is commonly called UIL. And it starts late in elementary school and sort of progresses through junior high and into high school. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I participated in the event Current Issues and Events. And I won the district and the regional meets. I came in first place. And so I could go to Austin to compete in the state meet. So me, the principal of the high school, who was chaperoning his daughter, who was an alternate for her competition, and the sponsor of my event, went to Austin, and before the competitions on Saturday, we did the touristy thing. We went to the state capitol. We toured, we went through the legislative chambers, took pictures. I even had a short little booklet of the state capitol. So yeah, although what was most memorable about that trip was actually going to, was the principal trying to find a Barnes & Noble and not being able to find one. So he settled on a small, dingy used bookstore somewhere near the UT campus where I picked up quite a few novels, which actually might do that as something else. So that was the first time I went to the state capitol. The second and third times was during the 2005 Texas Book Festival. I went on 2 succeeding days to see David McCullough and Doris Kearns Goodwin talking about and reading from their current works. I'm pretty sure for Doris Kearns Goodwin it was Team of Rivals, but I'm not entirely sure what the McCullough one was. But it's kind of fun. And I also was a volunteer for that particular Texas Book Festival, so I had quite a good time. Prompt number 8. Austin is famous for its breakfast tacos. Do you like breakfast tacos? Who makes the best? So, I tend to prefer breakfast burritos more than I do breakfast tacos. Although I actually make breakfast tacos. So I'm going to go with me as who makes the best. Although if you have a favorite breakfast taco place, shout them out. But I don't really eat out all that much, so I'm going to go with me as the one who makes the best breakfast tacos. And the reason why I do is because I never buy appropriately sized tortillas. They're always a little too small, so you can only really make them as tacos rather than as burritos. And finally, prompt number 9. Have you ever been to Austin? If so, share the story. So I lived in Austin from the late summer or midsummer of 2003 to late spring of 2006. I went to Austin for college, and after my freshman year at St. Edward's, I decided to move to Austin because I didn't really want to do the whole kind of moving into a dorm, moving out of it, and all that. It annoyed me. So I decided I wanted to live in Austin full time. So I did, and I enjoyed it. It's an amazing city. Definitely when I lived there, it was amazing, and it's continued to amaze. How it's grown, even though a lot of that is gentrification as well. But just Austin's growth in the last 20 years has been amazing. So yeah, that was the Austin, Texas tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. But I would like to see Brian of Bookish do this tag, and any other Texas booktubers. I would like to see if you would like to take on other cities. I'm planning on doing a Waco tag next week, but Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, El Paso, Amarillo, and all the rest are up for grabs. So anyway, Booktube, I will see you tomorrow with another tag, and hopefully I will be able to have other videos the rest of this week. So anyway, Booktube, until tomorrow, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.